Alex Rain had always believed that love, when real, could survive anything. He wasn't naive, just hopeful. 32, financially stable, and determined not to repeat his parents' mistakes, he had built his life around control. Control of his career, his image, his marriage. It was a calm Thursday evening, the kind of evening that wrapped the world in the illusion of peace. Alex was at the kitchen counter, sipping herbal tea, Lily on the couch scrolling through her phone. A candle flickered nearby, casting a golden glow that made everything look softer than it really was. Then his phone buzzed. One new email. Subject, Maldives honeymoon, confirmation and final itinerary. At first he thought it was spam, but the sender was a legitimate luxury travel agency, one he recognized. They had used it for their own honeymoon planning 2 years ago. His brow furrowed as he clicked. The email opened, revealing a beautifully designed itinerary. 7 nights in an overwater villa, private dinners, spa treatments, helicopter tour. Then he saw the names, Wilby Rain and Matthew Sanders. Below it, a note in bold italics. Can't wait to start our real life together. His breath caught. For a second, he didn't even blink, just stared. A full 10 seconds passed before the world came rushing back in. Heartbeat, heat in his ears, the acidic rise of disbelief in his throat. Slowly, he turned to look at his wife. She was watching him, and then she smiled. It wasn't a guilty smile. It wasn't nervous either. It was serene, almost victorious. He forced a question into his voice. "Did you book this trip?" Lily tilted her head, still smiling. "What trip?" He turned the screen toward her. She glanced at it, then returned her gaze to him. "Must be a mistake." But Alex saw something flicker behind her eyes. Not panic, something colder. Indifference. He wanted to scream, throw the phone, shake her, demand an answer. But instead he stood, walked to the sink, rinsed his mug, dried it. Because Alex Rain had learned long ago, rage is loud, but revenge is patient. He returned to the room and sat beside her. "We should talk about this later," he said. "Of course," she answered, crossing her legs like nothing had happened. Later that night, while she showered, Alex opened the secret folder on his laptop, the one where he kept the spreadsheet. The blog drafts, the budget he'd built to pull them out of debt after she maxed their cards, the sacrifices, the silent savings, the version of himself she never wanted to see. Until now. She thought she'd betrayed a man too weak to leave, but she'd misjudged. And this wasn't the collapse of Alex Rain. It was the ignition. Alex didn't sleep that night. He lay beside Lily, listening to the soft rhythm of her breath, trying to understand how someone so close could be so far gone. The woman he'd once skipped meals to surprise with concert tickets. The woman he sold his motorcycle for so she could cover her student debt. She was now dreaming of another man on another continent. But anger didn't overwhelm him. Not anymore. By 3 a.m., something colder had taken its place. Clarity. He slipped out of bed without waking her, sat at the kitchen table and opened his laptop. His fingers moved with purpose, not fury. The betrayal stung, but what came next would not be driven by pain. It would be orchestrated meticulously. Step 1. Observe. He would not confront her. Not yet. He needed confirmation, evidence, and, above all, control. He opened a secure folder and resumed a habit he had once abandoned for the sake of peace. His financial blog. Anonymous, influential, and quietly followed by over 200,000 people. He hadn't posted in nearly a year. Lily had always dismissed his little blog as a hobby, not realizing it had become something more, a source of income, credibility, and eventually, a weapon. He drafted a new post titled "When Love is Dead in Disguise." It was raw, veiled, and entirely impersonal, but it struck chords. Within hours, comments poured in. People shared their own stories of betrayal, of sacrifice, of the lies hidden under wedding vows. Alex read every one of them. By morning, he wasn't just awake. He was aware. Over the next few days, he became 2 people. To Lily, he was the attentive, if slightly distant husband. He cooked dinner, kissed her goodbye, asked about her day. He was careful not to raise suspicion. If she noticed the subtle shift in his energy, she didn't show it. But behind the scenes, Alex was evolving. He scoured her phone records, synced cloud backups, found gift receipts she'd carelessly saved in a shared folder, a bracelet with MSLR engraved, champagne booked to a hotel under a fake email he traced back to her, and that note from the travel agency. He printed it and stored it in a locked drawer. He also visited a lawyer, not one of those fire and brimstone types, but a strategist. The kind of lawyer who knew how to dismantle a marriage like a chessboard, piece by piece with no sudden moves. They spoke quietly, professionally. The lawyer was impressed by Alex's composure. "You're not angry?" she asked. I'm focused, he replied. No, Lee had made a critical mistake. She assumed betrayal gave her power, but in truth, it gave him freedom. The final trigger came on a rainy Thursday. She was late coming home again. When she walked through the door, her heels echoed confidence. She smelled like someone else's cologne. Rough day? He asked. She smiled absently. Exhausting. I might take a solo trip next month, just for clarity, you know? Of course, he said, and offered her a glass of wine. Later that night, he watched her sleep, and for the first time, he didn't feel sadness. He felt pity, because Lily Rain had no idea that the man she betrayed was no longer her husband. He was her consequence. By the end of the second week, Alex had already pulled the strings most people don't realize exist until it's too late. The cancellation of the Maldives trip was the first quiet blow. It wasn't just a simple click. He logged into the agency system with Lily's saved password. She hadn't even bothered changing it and requested a full refund, citing a medical emergency. The funds were routed to their joint account, but he had already opened a new one in his name alone the day before. He moved the money within minutes. The agency confirmed the refund with a cheery email. He had never checked. He also called the credit card companies, reported potential fraud, froze the cards she'd used most often, the ones in his name, the ones she never paid. He replaced them with new ones, rerouting statements to his new P.O. box. Still, she had noticed. She was too busy curating her Instagram, a stream of filtered smiles and captioned lies. Self-care Sunday, clarity over chaos. Alex read each one with a quiet kind of detachment. Not anger, more like watching a house burn from a safe distance. He began posting again, too, but not about her. His blog evolved, more personal, more reflective. He never used names, never described her directly, but his readers connected the dots. The posts had titles like, When Trust Buys Nothing and the Price of Being the Backup Plan. They exploded online. He told stories, his story, but cloaked in universality. The man who sacrificed, the woman who wandered, the quiet rage that turns into silent strength. And Lily? She remained blissfully unaware that the online movement gaining traction, getting reposted by finance influencers and therapists alike, was about her. But not everyone missed the connection. Someone tagged her in the comments. She brought it up over dinner. Have you heard of this guy? The finance blogger everyone's talking about lately? His stuff's everywhere. She scrolled her phone with one hand, wine glass in the other. Feels familiar, like weirdly familiar. Alex didn't flinch. Never heard of him. Ah, she laughed, sipping. People are calling him the recession relationship guru. Can you believe that? The way he writes, it's like poetry. Painful poetry. He smiled. He always liked poetry. That night, he uploaded a new post. They smile while they sink. A week later, she started to panic. It began with the boutique calling her about declined payments. Then her Uber app failed to process. She asked Alex if there was an issue with the card. Not sure, he said. I'll look into it. Instead, he met with his lawyer again. This time, they drafted the divorce petition. He had collected enough. Text threads Lily thought she'd deleted, screenshots of the booking, receipts, even a photo of the engraved bracelet, the one Alex found tucked in the back of her sock drawer, still in its velvet box. The bracelet was engraved MSLR. She hadn't even worn it yet. Maybe she was waiting for the Maldives. He included it all. And then he did something unexpected, even to himself. He called her parents. They had always liked him, respected him, admired the stability he brought into Lily's chaos. Her mother once told him he reminded her of Lily's grandfather. Quiet, reliable, deliberate. He invited them to dinner. Casual, just conversation. He never mentioned Lily's betrayal. He didn't have to. That came later because the night of the reveal had to be perfect. The dinner was set for a Friday. Intimate, elegant. He cooked. Lily's parents arrived first, bringing wine and warm smiles. Lily showed up late, heels clicking, makeup flawless, phone in hand, distracted. She barely looked at Alex, but she lit up for the performance until the moment he pulled out the folder. Not a manila one, no. He used leather. Presentation worthy. Inside, curated chronological betrayal, emails, photos, the canceled honeymoon booking, her chats with Matt, the bracelet receipt. Before dessert, he said calmly, I thought it'd be good to talk about some ching-ching. Vili blinked. What are you doing? Her parents looked confused. He opened the folder. One by one, he laid the evidence on the table, sliding it forward like cards in a poker game where everyone already knows who's bluffing. Her mother gasped. Her father's face turned gray. Lily's hand trembled as she reached for a photo. Alex, we can This isn't what it looks like. He didn't speak, just looked her in the eyes. Then he pulled out the final piece, the printed itinerary, her name, Matt's name, the night here. Can't wait to start our real life together. The silence that followed was different from all the others. It was ending shaped. Then, calmly, he stood and walked to the coat rack, pulled out a small envelope. Signed copy of the divorce papers, he said. The assets will be handled fairly. I've already spoken to a mediator. Her voice broke. You're not serious. Alex, please. He turned at the door. You wanted a new life, Lily, he said. Congratulations. It starts now. And then he was gone. The days that followed were quieter than Alex expected, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of quiet that follows a building collapse. Stillness after the dust settles, after the screaming stops, and everyone is left surveying what's left. Bealey hadn't contacted him, not directly. There were missed calls, a few half-hearted emails. One of them simply said, "We need to talk." Another was a photo of them from years ago, smiling in the sun outside their first apartment. She hadn't included a caption. He didn't reply. He was done speaking her language, the one built on denial, half-truths, and emotional debt. Instead, he focused on disentangling his life from hers. He moved into a small, clean apartment closer to the city, minimalistic and modern. No memories clung to the walls, no perfume lingered on the sheets. He bought a new bed, a new set of mugs, even a new pen for signing contracts. Nothing would follow him from the old life, not even the sound of her laughter in his head. The lawyer finalized the divorce filings. Lily's legal team sent a counterproposal laced with the kind of passive-aggressive entitlement only the guilty can muster. They demanded half of his savings, a portion of future blog revenue, and temporary spousal support. Alex forwarded it to his lawyer with a single message. They don't know about the debt agreement, do they? The reply came swiftly. They will now. That agreement, a promissory note Lily had signed when Alex paid off her $42,000 in credit card debt 3 years ago, was a quiet ace up his sleeve. She'd signed it at his request, laughing, assuming it was a formality. You and your contracts, she had teased. So dramatic. That note had teeth now, and it bit hard. The court ruled in his favor. He kept his savings, retained ownership of the blog and its associated income streams, and even reclaimed some of the money he'd spent during the marriage. Lily didn't show up to the final mediation meeting. Her lawyer came alone, flustered, citing emotional distress. Alex didn't flinch. Meanwhile, his blog wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. What started as anonymous reflections had transformed into a movement. Men and women alike poured into his comments and inboxes, sharing stories of betrayal, resilience, and rebirth. He started a video series called Debt Isn't Just Money. His first episode hit 1.2 million views within a week. He was invited to speak on a podcast about emotional recovery. Then another. A publisher reached out asking if he'd ever considered turning his writing into a book. Alex paused at that one. A book about this? Yes, he would, but not just about Lily, about him and what comes after devastation. Because what no one tells you is that grief doesn't end when the person is gone. It ends when you stop looking for them in the wreckage. One afternoon, while writing at a cafe downtown, a stranger approached. She was holding a worn paperback in her hand, his book, the pre-release proof copy the publisher had sent to early readers. Are you Alex Rain? She asked. He looked up, surprised. I am. Her smile was warm but cautious. Your book? Your blog? It got me through a really dark time. I just wanted to say thank you. He nodded, unsure what to say. You're welcome. I'm glad it helped. She hesitated. You want to join me for a coffee? I was just heading to that table in the corner. No pressure. He looked at the empty seat across from him, then at her, and smiled. Yeah, I'd like that. Millie, meanwhile, was unraveling. The Maldives trip, which was supposed to be a fairy tale escape, had turned into a public embarrassment. Matt Sanders, her real-life partner, ghosted her the moment the booking was canceled. He'd blocked her on everything within a week. Word spread through their social circles fast. Whispers about the affair, the canceled honeymoon, the bracelet. Her job didn't fire her, but they didn't promote her either. She noticed the meetings stopped including her. Her inbox grew colder. People smiled less. Her reputation, the social currency she'd built carefully over years, was eroding. She posted vague Instagram stories. Healing is messy, taking time for me. But the likes had dropped. The comments were sparse. People could sense when the mask cracked. One evening, she sat alone in their, now her, empty house. The silence was unbearable, not peaceful, accusatory. On the kitchen table was a small box. She opened it. Inside was the bracelet, the one she'd hidden. the one Alex had found. It wasn't hers anymore. He had returned it by mail, along with a note. I figured you might want to keep it. You paid for it, after all. Hey, Ubi stared at the note, fingers trembling. For the first time, she cried. Not the performative kind, but the ugly, silent sobs of someone who finally saw the cost of their choices. Alex wasn't coming back, and she would never again get the version of him who had loved her without question. 6 months had passed since Alex walked away from the life he'd built with Lily. Not a single glance back. Not one late-night message. Not even the temptation to check her social media. He didn't need to. She no longer occupied the space in his mind where love used to live. That place had been gutted, rebuilt, and repurposed into something stronger, himself. The book had launched under the title, After the Fire, Building Yourself from the Ashes. It wasn't a memoir of revenge, it was a blueprint for survival, for rebuilding identity when trust has been weaponized against you. It climbed the charts slowly at first, then surged as word of mouth spread. What began as a therapeutic exercise in self-expression became a guide for thousands. Bookstores stocked it, next to titles on personal finance and healing. Therapists recommended it, podcasts quoted it. One therapist messaged him personally, saying, "Your words did what years of sessions couldn't. My client finally let go." That one stuck with him. Alex didn't consider himself a hero, just someone who stopped pretending. One crisp Saturday morning, he found himself in the same cafe where that woman had recognized him months ago. This time, he sat across from her, Rachel, a quiet, intuitive presence who asked more questions than she answered, who never pushed for his past, only encouraged his present. They weren't official. They didn't need labels. It was enough that her presence didn't feel like a test he had to pass. There were no games, no calculated silences, just warmth, honesty, and peace. As they laughed over mismatched coffee mugs, Rachel placed a hand over his. "I read your last blog post," she said softly. "The one about forgiveness," Alex nodded. "It's something I've thought about for a while," he admitted. "Not the kind of forgiveness that invites someone back, just the kind that lets me move forward." "And have you?" she asked. He looked out the window. The city was alive, noisy, indifferent. But inside, he felt still. "I think I have." Meanwhile, Lily's world had continued shrinking. The house felt larger now, echoing with reminders she couldn't drown out. She tried throwing herself into work, into self-help books, into yoga retreats, but nothing filled the hollow she had carved out with her own hands. She saw Alex's book in a store window once. She didn't go in. She didn't need to read it. She already knew every line was likely about a version of her that she could never defend. She had shaped his pain, after all, woven it into the very betrayal that fueled his rebirth. In truth, she didn't hate him. She hated that he didn't need her anymore. That was her true punishment, not losing him, but realizing he had never lost himself. The final chapter of Alex's book included a single message, one that resonated with readers the most. They might take your love, your trust, even your time, but don't ever let them take you. You are not what they broke. You are what you rebuild. It ended not with a dramatic conclusion, but with an invitation to begin again, to rise without apology, to become more than the sum of what hurt you. And as Alex walked with Rachel through the busy streets that afternoon, a soft breeze at their backs, he turned to her with a quiet smile. "I used to think revenge was the goal," he said. "And now?" she asked. He squeezed her hand. "No, freedom is